We had an incredible conversation before that I want to recreate here. And I want to start out with what we call cracking the trust gaps with authentic reasons to believe and understand and evidence, right? That positions us as like the Gartner or the Forrester trusted advisor. And actually, it was interesting. 2 weeks before this recording, Forrester came out with their next year predictions. And the number one thing that they talked about was trust and how that is so critical. It's the number one thing. In fact, before they said for B2B CMOs that it's the trust is the number one thing that we should be focusing on. That we have plans for almost everything, but we don't have a plan for building trust. In fact, that comes to us as branding. And then we have this perception internally that everything that we focus on, resources and dedication time on brands, are going to take away from pipeline. And so we kind of have battles internally, the C-suite and our board and everything. But I would just like to open it up and understand from your point of view the importance of trust and building that with authentic evidence.
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. We talked about this, but trust is the most important thing anywhere. To make you buy or say big yes or commitment, you want to make sure who is the brand you are working with, what are the numbers they are putting out there to tell their story. Gartner's research, or there's a lots of collateral out there. And even as a own consumer, you can feel like when it comes to comparing products and services out there, everyone just picks and chooses the data which best tells your story. So, yes, trust becomes a big part to make sure your value proposition of the product is clear and the data you're using to explain that value proposition is trusted. You cannot just pick a boldest and the biggest number because it looks great on case study to tell, like, hey, this is why you should work with this business. You have to make sure there is a credibility in the numbers you're putting out there. And as users on the consumer side and as a provider on a marketing side, you can see the importance why it is so important. Because as a consumer, you can't say like everyone has a same best performance because it's averages, right? You cannot be 100% right, you and your competitor or like two other competitors in the market. So my approach in putting numbers out there is authenticity, credibility, and making sure what you're putting out there is trustworthy and it's telling the story. So be very, very cognizant about what you're putting out there for building your communication strategy with your prospects and customers. Because once you build that trust, you got them. Once you lose that trust, you're losing them forever.
Yeah, it's foundational. I mean, we all know B2B is a relationship based business, and that relationship is all based on trust. In fact, many years ago, when my wife and I got married, we decided that the number one, like the way that we were going to keep our marriage alive and together was that we were never going to break trust. That no matter what, we were always going to be able to trust the other. Right. And we made that a big mission, kind of, you would say, in our marriage. Relationships matter, trust matters. And I have to say this, it came out of the most recent study from Trust Barometer from LinkedIn and Edelman that of 32,000 respondents worldwide, 61% think that we as business leaders are being intentionally misleading. So when you say we pick and choose the numbers in the story to present, it's kind of like our lives on Facebook are not really like what we are, right? And they get it and they know that. So that's my takeaway from your saying here is that we have to build trust and authenticity. We can't just build the story we want everybody to know because they're not buying it these days, right?
And consumers are smart, to your point. They can understand the differences. They can understand it. I won't use names here, but there are marketing tactics which just proving that odds of numbers and averages and the math never will make sense if you start looking at those numbers in competitor claims. I've never followed those strategies. I'm like, what is real? Let's be real. Let's say authentic. And then if you read some of those claims out there, they look great on creatives. But then when you see how exactly you came to that number, there will be a long list of exceptions. Only use this subset of audiences to come up with this claim. No, if you're talking to a consumer, be transparent, be direct, and build the trust you need to, because you should trust your products and services. And if they are driving value, you should be able to communicate that value with real data. You don't have to cook up data or make up data.